everybody. How's everyone doing today? You doing all right? Yes. We're here for good reason. We're here for good reason. My name is Bria Rice. I am the owner and the host of Kueen Talk, which is a podcast for queer people of color to come on and share their stories and experiences. First, I would like you guys to all give yourselves a round of applause for showing up today and making a difference. This is very important work we are here to do today. We are here today because our voice matters, our presence matters, and because the rights of individuals and families have always been worth fighting for. The fight for LGBTQ+ rights have never been easy. Many of us know firsthand that being silenced, dismissed, and told that we are something that we should hide. But we also know the power of resilience. We know that when we unite, we are stronger. Today, we move forward. We speak up for those who do not have the safety to do so. We fight for the rights that should be fundamental, yet are constantly threatened. We advocate for representation because visibility leads to a voice, and a voice leads to change. Today, you will hear from amazing speakers, both allies and members of our community. We are actively doing the work, and we are committed to continue to fight for equality. We come together in solidarity, affirming our presence and our purpose. Our voices will not be silenced. Our stories will not be erased, and our fight for justice will not waver. We will show up. We will continue to build community, organize, and demand justice because our lives, our love, and our rights are worth fighting for. Our first speaker does amazing work in this community. Thomas Alonzo was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas, and has spent most of his years active in the community. After nearly 9 years of service in the United States Air Force, he was honorably discharged in 1985 and went on to work for the IRS for 35 years, actively leading DEI efforts, particularly in the Hispanic Employment Program. He currently serves as the 2nd District Representative on the Advisory Commission on Human Relations and Disability Issues. In 2016, Thomas joined Equality Kansas and helped advocate for Wyandotte County and became the first in Kansas to pass the non-discrimination ordinance for sexual orientation and gender identity in 2018. Please help me welcome the Chair of Equality Kansas and the Chair of Northeast Chapter, Thomas Alonzo.
Good morning, everybody. We're on a kind of tight schedule today. Our Chief Executive of Kansas is here. And with no further ado, Governor Kelly.
I've got to tell you that introduction was the epitome of government efficiency. So, anyway, thank you to Equality Kansas for your tireless work to ensure all Kansans are treated with dignity and respect. Your advocacy makes Kansas a better place, and I am so glad to be here with all of you today. Equality Kansas is an opportunity to reflect on the progress we've made and to recommit ourselves to the work that remains. Kansas has a long tradition of standing on the right side of history, from the fight for abolition to the battle for women's suffrage. That commitment to fairness must extend to every Kansan, including our LGBTQ community. Right now, that commitment is more important than ever. Across the country, we're seeing an unprecedented push to roll back basic freedoms, and Kansas is no exception, unfortunately. In the last year, the legislature has attempted to insert itself into personal medical decisions, restrict parental rights, and undermine the ability of individuals to live as their authentic selves. These laws do real harm, not only to the individual, but they also drive away professionals and businesses. They worsen our workforce shortages. They create unnecessary interference from the government in people's lives. Despite these efforts, I know Kansans reject discrimination. We have pushed back before, and we will again, because Kansans believe in fairness, in dignity, and in the opportunity for all. That's why I vetoed legislation that seeks to divide and discriminate. I have stood firm against government overreach into the private lives of our citizens. I will continue to stand firm against any attempts to strip rights and freedoms from any segment of our society. Since taking office, I have taken steps to make Kansas a more inclusive place. On day one, back in 2019, I reinstated anti-discrimination protections for LGBTQ state employees. I appointed the first openly gay commissioner to the Kansas Human Rights Commission. I have vetoed bills that restrict medical care, limit freedoms, and target vulnerable Kansans. This is the work of protecting democracy. It is about ensuring Kansas remains a place where families make their own decisions, not one where politicians dictate how people should live their lives. The vast majority of Kansans reject extreme measures. They know that we are stronger when we embrace fairness and inclusion. They understand that economic growth depends upon attracting talent, not driving it away. That's why your voices are so important. Support organizations that advocate for equality and provide resources to those affected by these laws. Engage in elections. The best way to stop attacks is to change who holds power in our state. By electing leaders who believe in equality, we can build a future that reflects our values. Every election at every level matters. Talk to your friends and your family. Personal conversations change minds and build momentum. We know that progress takes time and effort and that there will be setbacks. But it is crucial that we all refuse to back down. As governor, I give you my word that I will continue to stand up for you and to protect your rights. I will call out and condemn any speech, behavior, or legislation that aims to harm or discriminate against LGBTQ Kansans. You have an ally in me. But the reality is, I can't stand against these bills alone. So I'm asking you, keep up the energy throughout this session. Talk to your representatives. Remind them that divisive, unpopular legislation drives people out of our state and undermines our reputation as a forward-thinking, freedom-loving place where businesses want to locate. I can deliver that message, and I have many times, but we need everyone to speak up if legislators are actually going to hear it and act on it. Together, let's help Kansas reclaim its heritage as the free state for all. This is our right, and together we will win. And after
Governor Kelly's words and leadership, the presence here today, it means so much to this community. Now, our next speaker, Thomas.
I'm not going to keep you very long because we got a tight agenda today, but I wanted to remind everybody that in June, Equality Kansas will be going on its second annual Rainbow Tour throughout Kansas. Equality in Kansas isn't just Kansas City, Topeka, and Wichita. It's Hutchinson, Salina, Pittsburgh, Leavenworth, Great Bend, Garden City, all these places we went to last year. Even McPherson, Winfield, and Independence. We'll be back. We'll be back. So, the one thing that the governor said that I want to remind you all about is, if you don't talk to your legislator, whether you think they're friendly or not, we're making a big mistake. They think everything's okay if we don't say anything. 5 lines on a postcard. That's all it takes. A 1-minute phone call. That's all it takes to get attention. Please, we cannot do this without rural Kansas, without small town Kansas. Get in there and let them know what you think. Enjoy the day.
Our next speaker is Taryn Jones, who is the Policy Director for Equality Kansas. She has been involved in Equality Kansas since 2019. She was formerly the chair of the Metro Region and the vice chair of the State Board. She took over as Policy Director in 2022. Taryn has a degree in social work, and before she started as Policy Director, she worked at a local nonprofit as a volunteer coordinator. Please help me welcome Taryn Jones.
Hey everyone, welcome to Equality Day. I am not going to take up too much of your time, but I did want to talk about a few bills that we have in the legislature right now. The first one is SB 63. This is the gender affirming care ban. For those of you who don't know, I know, this did pass is into law now. It went through the House and the Senate, and unfortunately passed the override. But you know, we should all be proud because we held off on this for about 4 years, and so you know, we fought our hardest, and unfortunately it didn't go in our favor this year. But just to kind of go over that bill a little bit, it will ban access to all medically necessary health care, including puberty blockers, HRT. For anyone under 18 years old. It also bans state funds, including Medicaid, from being used to cover medically necessary health care and prescriptions for Kansans under 18. One part that's really concerning, not that all of it isn't concerning, is it bans state facilities or individual entities receiving state funds from promoting or advocating social transition or medically necessary health care under 18. So unfortunately, this bill defines social transitioning so broadly that we don't really know what this bill is going to look like now that it's become law. It bans state employees who care for children, which could include social workers, teachers, school guidance counselors, and more, from allowing youth in their care to dress in the manner that they desire and using the names and pronouns that they desire. It bans state properties, facilities, and buildings like schools from being used to promote or advocate for trans students' right to self-expression, like using their preferred pronouns or name. The bill threatens medical providers with license revocation for providing the best practice medical care with strict liability lawsuits for up to 10 years after they've provided care. It also makes so that providers obtaining liability insurance will not cover these kind of lawsuits. The next bill I want to talk about is SB 76, which, if you're sticking around this afternoon, this does have a hearing in the House Education Committee at 1:30, so we'd love to see you there. What this is, it bans all school and post-secondary employees from using a student's chosen name or pronoun unless they are consistent with the student's birth certificate. Now, there is an exception to this. If students have gotten permission from parents, they are able to use that name. They also have an exception for derivatives of names. So, for example, William could use the name Will, but derivative isn't strictly defined, and so this leaves a lot open to interpretation of exactly what a derivative of a name is. This also has a monetary damages clause where a person who is suing doesn't even need to be involved in the interaction and can just be someone who is observing an interaction between two people. So this is a concerning bill that exploits free speech. One of the other ones is 2311, which has passed the full House and has been assigned to the Senate Committee on Public Health and Welfare, but does not currently have a hearing as of last night when I checked. This prohibits policies that protect LGBTQI kids from discrimination during foster care and adoption. The bill mandates that state agencies must consider foster and adoptive parents, even if their beliefs could be harmful to an LGBTQ+ child. It's such as the prospective parent intends on engaging in practices such as conversion therapy. This also includes a damage clause where any person who is denied selection or placement of a child and feels as though it's because of their belief system, they are entitled to sue the agency and its employers over this perceived discrimination. The very last bill I want to talk about is a little bit happier. It's HB 2267, and this is a conversion therapy ban. It's been introduced since 2018 by one of the LGBTQ legislators every year, and right now it's sitting in the House Health and Human Services and has not gotten a hearing since it's been introduced in 2018. So one thing we would love is for people to contact their legislators and let them know that we want that bill 2267 to have a hearing in the House. And those are the bills for today, so I will hand it back over to Bria to hear more from our speakers.
That is why we are here. That sounded discouraging, but we will continue the fight. This is why we are all here today, and fear will not stop us, you guys. Our next speaker today is Mark Schreiber. Was born and raised in Garden City and attended Emporia State University, where he earned both a bachelor's and master's degree in biology. Schreiber started his career in 1979 as a biologist for Kansas Gas and Electric Company during the construction of Wolf Creek Generating Stations, Kansas' only nuclear power plant. He retired in 2017 as Vice President Government Affairs for Westar Energy, the predecessor company to Evergy, and has served since then as the 60th District Representative. He currently serves on the Legislator Modernization Committee, the Energy and Telecommunications Committee, as well as the Education Judiciary Committee. He is married to Angie Schreiber, and they have 2 adult children, Ben and Gretchen. Please help me welcome Representative Mark Schreiber.
have to adjust these mics every time I get up to speak. Sorry. Well, thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate Taryn asking me to speak. I know it's kind of on short notice, but I was glad to speak to all of you today. It's nice to see such a full crowd. You know, during the debate on Senate Bill 63, I recalled a phrase I'd heard in one of our training sessions at West Star. It said, "You don't have to be one of to stand with." That was 20 years ago, and it still is true today. And to me, that speaks to the issue of equality, which does not mean everyone looks the same or acts the same. It means we respect everyone, even when we're different. Over the last several years, the public has seen our differences widen the partisan divide. This debate, true debate, occurs less often, and name-calling and put-downs continue to increase. And, you know, really, both parties have gotten into this situation, and it continues to grow, which is concerning. So later on, I'll hopefully provide a little, maybe a minor solution to this. But when I went to the well to talk about Senate Bill 63 initially during the debate, I wasn't quite sure how it would go. I've been practicing it for a long time. I live in Emporia. I drive back and forth every day, and I probably practiced it in my vehicle alone 20 times. So it was quite an effort. But, you know, my colleagues in the Republican Party, I'm probably in a minority right now with being a Republican, but to me, this is really more a social justice issue. And, you know, when I went up, I could have talked a lot about facts and figures. I've got an inch-thick file back in my office with all sorts of medical reports, data, and so forth that I could have just stood up there for hours. But what I really wanted to do was make a connection with my colleagues. So I told a story. You know, after doing this several times, you'd think I'd get used to it, but so I told the story about our daughter Gretchen. She was born with factoral association, which is a fairly rare disorder, combination of physical birth defects, and kind of what her situation was when she grew up, went to elementary school, high school, as an adult, and so forth, the problems she faced, and tried to connect that with, you know, what families with children diagnosed with gender dysphoria face. You know, they face rejection, they face isolation, and really all they want to do is be a part of something. You know, Gretchen's statement to me back in the 6th grade was, you know, Dad, all I want is someone to sit with me at lunch. That's it. And through our medical journey with Gretchen, you know, I really came to believe strongly that no one should be denied appropriate medical care. You know, and I think I did make a connection with some of my colleagues. They didn't change their vote. And I understand that, you know, and I'm not angry at them. I want to continue to tell them my story, and I hope everyone here will tell them your story. My first connection with Equality Kansas was when I first became a legislator in 2017. Tom Wint was the executive director at that time. He came into my office. I'd lobbied 15 years up here before I was a legislator, and I'd seen Tom around and, we said hi, but really didn't have much of a connection. He came into my office and he wanted to talk to me about a bill that was coming up that year. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, Tom, let me think about it. Well, Tom kept coming back. He didn't get angry at me. He didn't, pound on my desk. He kept coming back. And that persistence is what I remember, and I think that's what the key is here today. He finally won me over, and it reminded me of a conversation I had with one of my bosses at Westar. She visited with me one day about a project I was on, and she said, Mark, it's like water dripping on a rock. Drip, 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 drip. You may not see the effect right away, but over time, the water wears down the rock and succeeds in continuing its journey downhill. Drip, 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 drip. Persistence is the key, and that brings me to my next point. Everyone here has a story to tell about why equality is important and why inequality is a bad thing. So here's what I want you to do. I want each of you to write down your equality story. Why is it important to you? Keep it brief, keep it simple, refine it, practice it, and then tell it. You may not break through the first time or the first 10 times, but keep after it. Keep after it. Keep telling your story. I think the governor said that, Thomas said that. We've got to keep telling the story here to move that rock. I've come to learn that equality is not 1,000 copies of the same person. It's 1,000 people who want the same resources and opportunities. So tell someone your story. Thank you for your time.
We definitely need both people on both sides of the aisle. Thank you, Representative Mark Schroeder. Our next speaker is Representative Brandon Woodard, who represents Kansas' 108th District. He is passionate community organizer, dedicated advocate, and proud lifelong Kansan with deep roots in his community and a fierce commitment to public service. Brandon has become a leading voice for human rights, economic justice, and a more equitable Kansas for all. As House Democratic leader, elected by his colleagues in 2024, Brandon is critical in shaping the legislative agenda, advancing progressive policies, and strategizing on key issues impacting Kansans. Brandon's commitment to service extends beyond the State House. As a fundraiser for the AIDS Service Foundation of Greater Kansas City, he is dedicated to raising funds, awareness, and hope for the nearly 6,000 individuals living with HIV/AIDS in the region. His work is driven by a deep belief in dignity, compassion, and the power of community action. Please help me welcome Representative Brandon Woodard.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Equality Day. I think I've learned my lesson to never follow Representative Schreiber after this speech. We're so fortunate to have allies across the aisle, and while we're seeing fewer of those, it does mean the world to, I know, all of you, that we have people willing to stand up on both sides of the aisle and speak out for what's right. Equality Day is one of my favorite days, not just because I'm part of the community, but because I continue to see you all walk through this building as some of the most brave and authentic individuals in this building. And like I said on the House floor when we were unsuccessful in our approach to sustaining Governor Kelly's veto of the ban on gender affirming care, no elected body, no state legislature, no federal government will ever legislate away our existence. I continue to be inspired every year when you continue to show up. You see more and more attacks on the LGBTQ plus community, specifically our trans and non-binary friends. And we continue to fight back and push back. And as Taryn mentioned, while it does really hurt to lose, we were able to successfully stop that legislation for a number of years. And so the political consequences of losing elections and losing seats in an election, we've seen the very stark reality of what happens because of that. And so, while politics is a 10-year sport, in the House of Representatives we're measured 2 years at a time, and this Republican supermajority that is drunk on its own power continues to overreach and power grab in a way that the voters are going to respond in 2026 by saying no more of this. Just look at the priorities that the more extreme leaders are pushing. They're focused on banning puberty blockers, while Democrats are working to make it more affordable for you to live in Kansas. They want to focus on the hearing today in House Education, banning pronouns, while we're working to actually repeal legislation that says that in our Constitution and in the state law that same-sex people can't get married, when the majority of Kansans support the right to get married.
Yes!
Y'all are fired up. I'm right back here for it. I just want to acknowledge a couple of people in the room. Representative Heather Meyer in the back was our first openly bisexual members of the House.
And I'm a lifelong Kansan trans man, a member of Trans Lawrence Coalition. More importantly, though, I am a social worker. My daily life is defined by the work I do with the most vulnerable people in the state. People with severe mental illness, or SMI for short. This population struggles significantly with employment, incarceration, homelessness, and accessing healthcare. The stories I encounter on a regular basis are devastating.
I won't apologize for my tears, but it makes it hard to read. These laws are not just an attack on the LGBTQ community, it's an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the idea that we can build a world where everyone is free to be themselves. It's an attack on the promise of equality. And so the fight must continue. We fight by showing up, by voting, by speaking out. We fight back by challenging every single lie, every single stereotype, every attempt to dehumanize. Remember, history is on our side. Every time the forces of oppression have tried to silence marginalized groups, they have risen louder. Every time they have tried to erase, they have shone brighter. They wouldn't try so hard to keep you down if they didn't truly recognize your power.
That's right.
Is not easy. It's messy. It's exhausting. It's infuriating. It's also not negotiable. Every time we push back against injustice, we move closer to a world where every child, every person can live their truth without fear. This is not just a fight for the LGBTQIA community, it is a fight for the soul of our society. Many years ago, is mystical, please, I beg of you, don't look him up. Like, he's problematic, he's definitely not a good dude. But I very conveniently separate his lyric from the person. So in one of his songs, he said, "If you see me fighting in the forest with a grizzly bear, help the bear." So I interpret this line this way. If I have to get down and dirty and actually engage and fight a grizzly bear, you might as well help the bear. In my mind, the fight's already won. It's a done deal. Let me just repeat it. If I have to get into it with a big old nasty grizzly bear, I will not lose. It's not a fight we can lose. We are powerful, we are determined, we are relentless and unwavering. The fight for equality is not negotiable.
Not negotiable. Thank you so much, Sarah. Our next speaker is Rabbi Monty Ruber. He is the Executive Director of Kansas Interfaith Action, a statewide multi-faith issue advocacy organization that puts faith into action on important social, economic, and climate justice issues. He is a graduate of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College in Wyandotte, Pennsylvania, and has lived in Kansas since 2007. A lifelong activist on peace, social justice, and environmental issues, Rabbi Monty brings a variety of congregational, interfaith, and organizational experience to the work of Kansas Interfaith in Action. Rabbi Monty and his wife Susie have 3 queer young adult children and live in Overland Park. Please help me welcome Rabbi Monty.
If you believe in queer rights, let me hear you say yeah. Yeah! If you believe in trans rights, let me hear you say yeah. Yeah! If you love a queer person, let me hear you say yeah. Yeah! If you want the Kansas legislature to stop shitting on queer people, let me hear you say yeah. Yeah! I think I've been in these hearings, what have I been in these hearings, 3 years? I can't even remember, 3 or 4 years. And this year we knew that we had a hard road to hoe because of the results of the elections last year. So we knew that SB 63 was likely to get through, and we went to these hearings, and even though the legislators had their minds made up before they ever stepped into the room, still queer people, their family, their loved ones, their pastors came and told about their lives to these legislators with their fingers in their ears, and to see the love and the hope on their faces in front of implacable opposition was actually very heartening, because even though injustice is being done every day in this building, you are holding out for justice, and that's a wonderful thing. Now, I know that people say, and people have said here today, that the marginalization of a small community, of the trans community, is about culture war issues and splitting people apart. But I think it's deeper than that. It's part of the takeover of this country by Christian fascism. A particular kind of idea of Christianity that says that only the way that we do it is the only way to do it. Man on top, woman on the bottom, white on top, black on the bottom, straight on top, queer, all the way down here. Is that the kind of world we want? No. Is that the kind of world we'll accept? No. Because I want to tell you something, friends. I know many of you, I know that many of you have been told by your families, by your communities, that God is in judgment of you. And I want to tell you that God loves you. I just want to say, I know we have a lot of pastors here. Can the pastors just raise their hands? We've got pastors here, all right? Good religious people are always a minority. I'll have to tell you that in advance. Good religious people are always a minority, but they are there. They are there, and they will stand for you and stand with you. Because the important thing to remember is that queer people give the world color. Queer people give the world color. You walk around this building all day, it's gray and brown. But look at here today, it's rainbows, it's color, right? Queer people give the world art, queer people give the world music, queer people give the world dance, queer people give the world drama, right? Tennessee Williams, right? Queer people give the world color, and stomping out queer people is stomping out color, and we won't accept that either. Oh, I have one more thing to say about the religion thing. So did you know that God is non-binary? Did you know that? In the book of Genesis, God is called Elohim, which is a plural noun, and it takes singular verbs, so it is they. So God can be referred to as they. So if you're in your prayers and you're trying to figure out how to not say God is he, say God is they, and you're absolutely legitimate to say that. And I want to say one more thing to every politician. Your humanity, your morality will be judged by how you deal with this issue. Because if you're picking on a small marginalized population for the sake of your political relevance, then you're not relevant. And you don't deserve to be where you are, and you're doing something that's immoral and dangerous, and please, please stop.
Right on.
And one more thing to say, we will stand with you. I have three queer kids, but I'm not queer myself. And I want to say that we will stand with you through thick and thin. We will try to find ways for you to get the care that you need. We will not stop. We will not give up. We will not triangulate you. We will stand with you because this is where morality and justice is found. And one more thing. There's a hearing today at 1:30 for this pronoun bill, which is actually a bullying bill, because it says that you can't call a kid by their appropriate name and pronouns unless you have parental permission. Sometimes, unfortunately, parents are not very supportive. They are going to run a transphobic bill while you are in the building, and I recommend at 1:30 everybody go in this room, go into the health committee meeting, and this is my big advice, be unmanageable.
Absolutely.
You can... They can think that what they're doing is right. They can have their decision made before they start, but you have the power to be unmanageable. They don't deserve your respect. Don't give it to them. Be who you are. Be unmanageable. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Ryan. Our next speaker is Judge Kate Lynch, who Governor Kathleen Sebelius appointed Judge Lynch to the bench in 2006. She presides over the probate, paternity, and domestic violence dockets. Please help me welcome Judge Kate Lynch.
Good morning. I feel like I drew the short straw following up after the rabbi. I know we're running a little behind on our program, and I don't want to belabor any of the points that have already been made, but I will tell you this. I have been told I am the only out judge in the state of Kansas. I don't know if that is true, but I do know years ago when Scott Turow was in Topeka speaking at our judicial conference, the Phelps were outside protesting, and he mentioned how difficult it would be to be a gay judge in the state of Kansas, and everybody turned around. Nor has anybody come up and asked me how my partner is or my engagement, so I suspect that I am the only out judge in the state of Kansas. The funny part about that is that I attended Catholic school in the 70s and 80s when I wasn't in suspension for speaking my mind. But what I remember most was that we focused on social justice issues. Clothing the naked, feeding the poor, visiting the imprisoned. I don't know when they lost that focus, but it never left me. And the social justice... The focus on social justice issues is what led me to law school, eventually to the bench, and frankly, here today. I have watched so many young people throughout the country and here today stand up and speak their truth and ask nothing more from the law than to be able to pursue their life, liberty, and their happiness. I want it to be known, I stand with you in that pursuit. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Please give a round of applause for all the amazing speakers again. Before we leave today, I want you all to remember this. You are not alone. You can look in this room right now and see you are not alone. No matter how loud the opposition gets, no matter how many times they try to strip us of our humanity, they will not win. We are still here and we are not going anywhere. For those of you who are allies, know that your presence is both valued and essential. Your support amplifies our voices and strengthens this movement, helping create a more inclusive and just future for all. We must be deliberate and concise in our fight, clear in our purpose, bold in our actions, and unyielding in our demand for justice. Because this is not just about today. This is about the future. This is about making sure that the next generation doesn't have to continue the same fight and battles that we are fighting right now. So, continue advocating, continue organizing, pushing back, continue showing up, speaking out, and demanding change. Let's continue to hold each other up, because when there is unity in the community, we will win. We will not be silenced. We will not back down. We will continue to fight for ourselves, for our community, and for every LGBTQ+ person who deserves to live freely and authentically. Thank you guys all again so much for coming here today. Stay strong, stay proud, and never stop marching forward. And as I like to say, family, friends, strangers, love and be nice. Thank you.